The story of St. John Fisher, Bishop.
Subscribe to our channel to receive more content like this.
Our story begins in England, back when kings ruled everything, and the church was as powerful as the crown. In a time of big decisions and bigger consequences, there lived a man named John Fisher. He wasn't born into wealth or nobility, no fancy title, no royal blood, just a boy from the small town of Beverley in Yorkshire. But from a young age, John had a deep hunger for knowledge, for truth, and for God. He worked hard and studied even harder, and soon his brilliance stood out. He went to Cambridge University and rose through the ranks until he became its chancellor. That means he was basically the president of the university, and he held that post for the rest of his life. But John wasn't just a scholar. He was a priest, a teacher, a man who believed in living simply and loving deeply. He gave much of what he had to the poor. He encouraged education for everyone, including women, which was rare at the time. Eventually, John was chosen to be the Bishop of Rochester. It was the smallest and poorest diocese in England. But that didn't matter to him. He wasn't in it for fame or fortune. He was there to serve. And he served well. He preached powerful sermons. He wrote books defending the church. He helped guide souls. People listened when John Fisher spoke, not because he was loud or forceful, but because he was wise, and he was good. But then came trouble. King Henry VIII, ruler of England, wanted to divorce his wife, Queen Catherine. The problem? The church said no. Marriage was sacred. You couldn't just leave it behind. Henry wasn't happy. So, he took matters into his own hands. He broke away from the Catholic Church and declared himself the new head of the Church of England. Suddenly, anyone who didn't support the king's decision was seen as disloyal, even dangerous. Many bishops gave in. They signed documents saying the king was right. They stayed silent to protect their positions. But not John Fisher. He stood up and said, "No. No to the divorce. No to the king being head of the church. No to changing the truth to suit power." Even when he was offered riches and titles to change his mind, John refused. Even when he was thrown in prison, he stood firm. Even when his health failed, when he grew weak and sick and alone, he didn't back down. He spent over a year locked away in the Tower of London. No visitors, little food, cold stone walls. But John Fisher's spirit never broke. He prayed. He wrote. He kept trusting in God. Then, in 1535, a message came. The king had enough. John Fisher was sentenced to death. On the morning of his execution, John was calm. He dressed in his best clothes, not out of pride, but because he believed he was going to meet the King of Heaven. He was 65 years old. Before he died, he spoke clearly and bravely. He forgave his enemies. He declared his faith. And then he gave his life. John Fisher was one of the only bishops in England who stood up to the king. He could have saved his own life, but he chose instead to speak the truth, to stand for faith, for conscience, for the church. And he paid the price. Years later, the church recognized his courage. He was declared a saint, and today he's remembered not just as a bishop, but as a man who would not be moved, not by fear, not by power, not even by death. John Fisher reminds us that doing what's right often comes at a cost, that truth matters, even when it's not popular, and that the strongest voices are sometimes the quietest ones, who simply refuse to say yes when they know the answer must be no. St. John Fisher, Bishop, Martyr, Saint Defender of Truth.